Let's start with the general election, I think, because that was obviously what lots of our callers are really keen to know. When on earth is he going to call that general election? He said that it's going to be in the second half of the year, but he was, quote, keen to make more progress first. So I think that's a signal that we are very far off from seeing a general election.
I think we've got conferences to look forward to in October,
Yes, I think so. I do not think he is a man that is done yet. His business is not finished, he said. I thought he was also particularly strong on all the news that's on the front page of today about the CAS gender review, and he mentioned that he obviously has 2 young daughters who I think, are in their teens.
Pre-teens, actually.
Pre-teen age. So he's obviously, it's an issue that he does really care about, and he said that we need to be cautious, and there is no such thing as a neutral act with changing gender. He seemed generally broadly supportive of what the government was saying, what this report's saying, and that the government welcomes its recommendations as well. Another interesting point I thought on the ECHR we put to him that Suella Braverman said yesterday, she doesn't believe you when you say you're going to leave the ECHR if you have to. He said, yes, I would not have put that part in the bill if I wasn't prepared to use it. He was sticking it to her, saying, yes, I am prepared to do whatever it takes to stop a foreign court from blocking those flights to Rwanda, which we know is coming back to the Commons next week for some more drama as well on Israel. Obviously, topic of the day, Lord Cameron has been in the United States talking to Anthony Blinken, trying to get the Americans to sign up more money for Ukraine. He was asked yesterday about arms sales. The Prime Minister today defending that decision. We will continue to sell arms to Israel despite the deaths of those 3 citizens in Gaza. But I thought some of the strongest language we've heard from the Prime Minister on that, saying that the situation in Gaza, Israel, is intolerable, and calling on Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, to do more. Some of his strongest language there on that, I thought.
Go on to your point. Do you think we're any closer to knowing when we have a general election? How important is it to you that we have a general election?
Well, to be fair, it's very important. He's at this moment in time one of the weakest prime ministers around. He made, when he came into Parliament in January, 5 pledges. He's kept none of those pledges.
Inflation has halved. Sorry to talk over you. Inflation has halved. On you go.
But the government, that's partly not responsible for the government. That's other external circumstances.
Okay.
No media, yourself, I don't know whether you asked him about his 5 pledges, how he's doing on those 5 pledges.
Yes,
and how did he, and he obviously he's not working on those pledges.
He accepts failure on NHS waiting lists and boats. The others he's prepared to argue about, but certainly
what about debt?
He says specifically on debt, he says paying off in different instalments is coming down.
Okay, and he's basically waiting for the things to turn around for him to actually increase his chances of winning the election.
What are those chances like in reality, would you say, Bal?
He's a dead duck.
He's a dead duck.
Everyone knows he's a dead duck. As I said to your researcher earlier on, come January, February next year, he'll resign from the government. He'll resign from politics.
Yeah.
Well, he'll resign from politics. He'll go to live in California with his hedge fund wealth, which is fine.
And lastly, when you get with your friends and you have coffee with them or teas or whatever you do, or lunches or whatever, do they all roughly say the same thing? We need an election and we need it now, Bal?
Basically, the country's had 14 years of Conservative government. He talked about crime, policing, more police officers. They only reduced them in the first place. NHS waiting lists, effectively, the report last week of satisfaction in the NHS is absolutely dismal.
It is. Last month, it was the lowest level of satisfaction since records began more than 40 years ago. So whatever he says, that is the reality. Your view, why is it important we have a general election?
I'm going to mirror a lot of what the last caller said. There's 14 years of corruption. He's covered maybe the one pledge that he has covered is actually in the hands of the Bank of England and not in the government's hands, as far as I'm aware, anyway.
It's inflation.
And then there's just the whole sweeping kind of all the pay scandals with the PPE and all of this rest of the stuff. And they're attacking Angela Rayner for what was 10 years ago and very little compared to Nazim Zahawi and Jeremy Hunt's Owens to the taxman. And then we've got just this entire kind of underfunding of the country in general, where they're blaming councils for going bankrupt, and maybe I could be corrected. As far as I'm aware, they get funded by the central government. So,
both and us, of course, we pay our council tax as well. But you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right.
You can't half fill a cup and expect them to drink the whole thing, right? So I don't know. To me, it just feels like after this 14 years of just total austerity and all the rest of it, we've got nothing left.
Why is it important we have a general election in your view?
The country's broken, man, Nick. Do you know what I mean? Great show as always, but the country's broken. I just think people are fed up. You just wait till the little elections in May and we'll see what happens. Then we'll see the Prime Minister call it a general election. I think, to be honest, the writing's on the wall and he's just prolonging the agony, not just for himself but for all the other Tory MPs. Enough's enough. We've had enough.
Well, let
call
me
a
put
general
to
election
you,
and go.
Mohammed, let me put to you briefly,
Yeah.
to paraphrase his rationale, which is, look, we're putting in policies that are working, inflation is down, we believe we're going to cure the small boats problem. We need as much time to show our policies are working, that's why I'm playing the long game. Mohammed.
OK, Nick, you've got as much chance of stopping them boats than what you have me and Joe Biden going to the moon tomorrow on the next spaceship.
OK. And again, question I put to Bal, when you meet with your friends in and around South Shields and you have teas or coffees or meals or whatever, roughly, is that what everyone's saying, do you think, in South Shields, Mohammed?
Everybody's had enough, Nick, everybody. And he's just prolonging it and prolonging it. He's like a lame duck. Do you know what I mean? He just won't go down.